Welcome to the Wealthy Author Summit. I am your host, Marc Guberti, author of books like Content Marketing Secrets and Podcast Domination, bringing you expert sessions from top authors where we teach you how to write, publish, and launch profitable books that take your brand to the next level. One of the things that I feel like we need to realize about books is that there's a lot of hidden potential in them to make a lot of revenue. It's not just about getting book sales. It's not just about getting people to buy your Kindle book, your paperback, your audiobook. It's also about leveraging the book to make even more revenue. So we're going to talk about how are we going to do that? How can we do that? Some of the strategies in this session. And the expert who is going to lead us today, she helps women reach six-figure incomes by following their dreams. She left a 17-year career in the legal field to follow her dreams of writing, teaching, and public speaking. She is the author of books such as Backwards Book Launch and Quit Your Job and Follow Your Dreams. Today's expert for this session is none other than Michelle Kulp. Michelle, it is such a pleasure to have you on the Wealthy Author Summit.
Thank you, Marc. I am very excited to be here and excited about this topic because you could get me talking about that topic all day long.
Michelle, I'm really happy to be talking with you about this topic because, I mean, it is really important that people think beyond their book. People think about their book as generating revenue like within the pages and not just when someone buys. So something that we'll definitely be talking about. Before we do, though, I'm wondering if you'd give us some background. So can you just share with us a little bit of why you became an author and what that initial journey was like?
Yeah, so it was kind of a backwards journey, just like my book, The Backwards Book Launch. So my passion really was law. I got out of high school, went to college. My whole thing was, I'm going to be a lawyer. And so I started college and ended up becoming a paralegal because I got married and had 3 children. So I never sort of finished the path to becoming an attorney. But I did work in litigation. And I feel like that background in litigation helped me become a successful author and now helping other authors. Because really it's about building a case. You know, in order to win litigation cases, you've got to have an opening argument, a closing argument. You've got to have evidence, and that's how we put books together. You know, it's persuading the reader that you have this great book and this unique sort of idea or hook behind the book, but then expanding on that. Like, the book is just an introduction to people. It's a marketing tool. So once I got out of the legal field, which was in 2000, I realized that my dream was really writing, because one of the books that changed my life was How to Find Your Mission in Life by Richard Bowles. And he asked the question, what do you love to do where you lose all sense of time? And whenever I thought about that, I was like, I mean, in the legal field, I loved reading, research, writing. And that was it, you know, like I didn't like all the other stuff. And so I was like, you know, I think writing is my passion and I should go into that direction. So I did. And this was a little before Kindle came out and Amazon and all that. And I tried to get published. I had about 50 rejection letters, and I finally got a huge publishing house to call me. And they said, we have your manuscript on our desk. I mean, this was like a Simon & Schuster. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was a big publishing house. And they had a book that I wrote called Woman, Take Hold of Your Power. And they asked me what my credentials were. And I said, what do you mean? And they're like, well, this is a self-help book for women. What are your credentials? And do you have a PhD? And I said, oh, no, I have something better than a PhD. And they're like, really? What? And I'm like, life experience. Like, I wrote that book from my life and from other people in my life stories. And he's like, well, you know, it's really competitive and it's just business. We like your book, but you don't have a PhD, so we're not going to publish it. But what it did was it gave me affirmation that I was a good writer. And I went on to become a reporter for the local newspaper because of that. And I got a lot of writing experience that way, working in the local area. And then when Amazon came along, I was like, cool, I don't need a publishing house. I'm going to do it myself. So I published a book, and a year later, 0 sales. And this is 2011, and I was like, I don't understand why not one person found my book. So I go do my research for a year and I figure out, Amazon is like a search engine like Google. So if I put up a website and I want to get to page 1, I need SEO and I need backlinks and I need all these things to get to number 1. Of course, you need a great book, to keep it on the bestsellers list, a great book, a great hook, well done, well executed, the foundation. But anyway, so I took all my research. I relaunched my second book called Never Work Again, 6 Secrets to Earning a Playcheck Instead of a Paycheck. And I was very excited about it. And one day I had 2,128 downloads of Never Work Again. And this was 2012. That book's kind of old or whatever. But now the book that I'm really passionate about is Quit Your Job and Follow Your Dreams, which is still doing well. I'm getting ready to relaunch the second edition. And now I've got backwards book launch. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So that's kind of my background. And so I love books. Books have changed my life. I read about 2 books a week. That's about 100 books a year. I've been doing that for about 20 something years. And I'm just a bookaholic. I don't know what else to say.
I really like that backstory. It wasn't just a backstory that said, like, this is the success I achieved. You mentioned 0 sales in the first year. I feel like a lot of people, when you look at someone who is successful now, like yourself, at selling a lot of books, being able to make the income, I feel like people from the other side think, oh, this person was always like that. So hearing 0 sales for the first year, people may be at that level right now. They may not have published. So hearing a backstory like that is something really powerful. And another thing really powerful, again, we talked a little bit about this, is being able to tap into your book's revenue potential. I'm wondering if you could share with us how we can make a bigger profit from our books beyond just when someone hits the buy now with 1 click button.
Sure. I'd love to talk about that because that is what this book is about. And I do use 4 case studies in the book, and each person that I use a case study on, one of them is my clients who said this book and me launching his book to number 1 took him from a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business. And he also sold out his coaching program, and now he does retreats, very high-ticket, high-end retreats. And he said it's all because of the 2 books that I published for him. So that what you said earlier is very important, is thinking beyond the book. There are multiple streams of income you can create from the book. And one thing I learned after leaving the legal field was I don't want to ever depend on one stream of income again, because when one stream dries up, you don't know, you want to have others coming in. And so a book can do that for you. If you reverse engineer the process and think about the profit path first. So first, I just want to talk about the case studies. You may know these people. A book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I love what he's done because he put the methodology about Profit First into his book. It's very complicated for people who aren't financial planners and accountants. Like, I don't have a numbers mindset. So I would need somebody to help me implement that in my business. Well, he doesn't do it. He just certifies people in his Profit First methodology. And on the back end of that book is a certification program where Mike is making 7 figures. And so I love, bless you.
Thank you.
I love that strategy that Mike is using. He's not trying to do all the work himself. He's just like, hey, you want to be a Profit First professional? I'll certify you. You'll go through my training, and then you can go out and use this methodology with your clients and get new clients. The other one is Brendan Burchard. A lot of people know him from Experts Academy, and he is a great coach, motivational speaker, and he loves using books as a marketing tool. That's what they are. He writes a book, publishes the book, launches it to number 1, and then makes 6, 7, and beyond figures on the back end of the book by giving the book away. And I actually reverse engineered. I signed up for his free book and I reverse engineered the whole thing. I said, what is Brendan Burchard doing? And basically, and it wasn't really a long process. He had about a month, maybe 6 weeks of autoresponders. And all he did was, hey, here's the book. And then he followed up with you. And he was trying to sell one product that normally sold for $9.97. And he said, here's a one-time offer of $97. Now, if they either bought or didn't buy that, he then made them an offer a couple weeks later for a $9.97 product for, something that may have been valued at a few $1,000s, and he was discounting that. So by giving away his book, he had a 6-7 figure business on the back end through his programs and trainings. The other two, Russell Brunson, he does the same thing. He's a big internet marketer. And then my client is in there. So those are 4 case studies that are in the book. The profit paths, there's 4 main ones. People that are business people, a lot of times they want to be, get speaking engagements. So a book is the best way to get a speaking engagement because if they are picking between 2 speakers, one that has a book and one that doesn't, they're going to 99% of the time side with the person who has the book. So speaking, digital courses, I always say, we are all inundated with information, but what people really want is transformation. And the only way they can get transformation is like, you can read this book and say, okay, this is great, Michelle, now help me implement it. So it's the implementation is what people need help with. So you write the book, you give good value, and then you say, hey, if you want help implementing the information in my book, like for me, it's get on a strategy session call, get on a discovery call with me. I don't sell anything from my websites. They actually get on a call with me, and then I see if they're a good fit for my Done For You program, or I have training programs and other things that I can sell. But when somebody reads this book and they sign up for one of my programs, this could be worth anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000, like on my ghostwriting Done For You packages, which are, like the top of the programs that I have. So one person reads a book, it could make me $20,000 on the back end of that book.
And I really like the examples you provided. I've seen a lot of authors do the strategy call, but going a little deeper, like the Mike McCulloch's example, I really like this. Certifying the profit first professionals, that's definitely a really great strategy that I feel like it's really good, but you don't see it as common as like a schedule like a strategy session or sign up to get this free book. So a lot of different ways to make it work. It's just a matter of inserting them into your books. And one of the things that I noticed in your book is that you recommend writing shorter books. And I'm wondering if you could share with us why shorter books tend to do better.
Okay. Well, our attention span is shrinking because of all the information that is coming at us. It's not like it's our fault, but our attention span, we are inundated. I don't know if you've heard of books like Deep Work by Cal Newport, Essentialism, The One Thing, Gary Keller. And basically what they're all saying is like, we're inundated with information and we really have to pick what is the most important thing for us. And so in the old days, you're young, I'm not, but in the old days, people did want the manifesto when they got a book. They wanted like everything to know about marketing or everything to know about, self-publishing or whatever. But now really, there's a category, you probably know this already, but some people might not. There's a category on Amazon called short reads, and they have 30-minute reads, 1-hour reads, 2-hour reads, and things like that. It's a very good category because people want something they can consume within 30 minutes to maybe 2 or 3 hours that they can. It solves a problem and helps them without having to read everything under the sun about that topic. So I have taken clients' books. I had one client, honestly, he had a 1,200-page book. We made that book into a series of 9 books. And now his books sell because who wants to read a 1,200-page book? Do you have time to read a 1,200-page book? I know. So now he sells the series, and people, he gets them kind of hooked in the first book, and then they go on to buy the other books in the series. So that's what I recommend is short books, 100 pages, 120, somewhere around there. I think my book is maybe 150 pages or something like that. And solve, that one problem or 2 problems with that book. And if you have more problems to solve under that topic, just make a series of books because series do really well on Amazon.
And it's interesting you mentioned the short read category. I've seen it before, but not really thought of it as much because one of the books I mentioned, Content Marketing Secrets, was a really long book. The Podcast Domination, not as long. So shorter books are also easier to put out. So that's another thing to consider. One of the things that I do, regardless of how long your book is, you still have to do the marketing for it. And I'm wondering, for a book that comes out, what does the marketing look like to drive sales into eventually those offers you have in the book?
So like I told you about in 2011, when I published that one book and got 0 sales in a year, when you hit publish, you're probably not going to get any visibility on Amazon. You're not going to be on a bestsellers list. In addition to bestsellers list, you probably know this as well, but they have a lot of other lists. I have a list of their list. You've probably heard of them. New for you, recommendations based on your browsing history, hot new releases, new and noteworthy, movers and shakers, top rated. So when you're on a bestsellers list, what it does, first of all, it's the most searched list on Amazon. Second one is hot new releases. When you're on those lists in the top 100, then Amazon actually starts promoting your book. They start marketing your book, and you can't pay Amazon to do it. You can't, sign up for any programs. Amazon has, millions of books, and they can only promote the ones where the authors go out and they're actually doing something. So for an author to get on a bestsellers list, Amazon kind of rewards them by helping promote their books. And I'll tell you a couple of quick examples. I had a nurse who I published a book for, and the very next day after we finished the book launch, Amazon was taking out paid Facebook ads and pay-per-click ads on Google of her book. I had her book in a screenshot, paid ads by Amazon for that topic. So they promote it not only inside Amazon, which is huge, to their members and to their potential customers for the book, but they're promoting your book outside of Amazon. The better your book does and stays on a bestsellers list, the more they will help promote it. So that's what I help clients do. And I have a done-for-you program that takes somebody from, maybe they don't even have a written book, they have an idea for a book, and in 12 weeks, we actually have a published book, Kindle, print book. I do a 2-day launch to #1. I get the media interviews. We set up their Amazon ads, and they're on the bestsellers list. And many of my clients are staying on the bestsellers list for months and years at a time.
And it's really impressive what you're able to do for that client. It's also interesting Amazon's taking out ads for Google and Facebook. It makes sense because you buy the book, you want to buy other things, Amazon makes even more revenue. So that's a very interesting approach. That's for the launch. I feel like when the launch is happening, we get the idea, okay, we should be promoting our books a lot. But let's say you have a book that's been out for a while. So in my example, Content Marketing Secrets, when I came out with the audiobook version, I said, hey, the book's out as an audiobook. But how would you continue to promote a book after it's launched? 3 months later, 6 months later? You can't just promote it and say, hey, the book came out again and again and again. How do you promote it?
That's true. And I also tell my clients a couple things. One is this is not a one and done event. It's not like you do a book launch and it's like, okay, I'm on to the next thing. That's like abandoning your baby, right? You give birth to this thing, your book, and you don't abandon the baby. And I have to kind of, reinforce that with my clients a little bit because so after we get to #1, I actually give them a training called 15 Things to Do After You Become a #1 Best-Selling Author. And that is to keep their book up on Amazon, on the bestsellers list. So the first thing you can do is Amazon ads. We've been running and testing those for a while. They're very inexpensive. You can have up to 1,000 keywords per campaign, and it's a great way to keep your book in front of potential, readers. You just have to do the research on the keywords, but there's tools for, getting those keywords. I have ads that have 2,000 keywords in them running for my Quit Your Job and Follow Your Dreams and Backwards book launch. So Amazon ads. I have a client who, since we published her book, April 2013, she has been in the top 10 on the Amazon bestsellers list for 5 straight years. And I interviewed her and I said, she used to be a Washington Post technical writer. This is a fiction book, not nonfiction. And I said, Nancy, what's the secret? I mean, your book has been in the top 10 for 5 years. She said, I've done 500 radio interviews. I said, really? Now again, she's retired. She's out in Florida. She has time, but she's only doing 1 to 2 radio interviews a week. And I said, well, what kind of radio interviews? She said, well, like Blog Talk Radio or podcasts or whatever. And the funny thing, and I want to say this for fiction authors, is because I primarily specialize in nonfiction, but she's a fiction author, and she would do a radio interview, and the next day after that radio interview aired, she would have 700 downloads of her book and make like $3,000 on her book. Her ebook goes for $5.99. So I would say, getting media and doing interviews. I belong to a group with Christina Davies called PR for Anyone. And Christina Davies has been on Dr. Oz, Steve Harvey, the Today Show. She's an inventor, but she loves to help entrepreneurs and authors get PR for their book. So when I'm done with my clients, I send them over to Christina, because that really can sell more books than anything, is doing those interviews like I'm doing with you. People don't know who I am, obviously, and now they'll be able to connect with me if they need help with their book. So those are some of the things I would do, is, getting media. Also speaking. I did a speaking engagement in February down in Florida for 300 women. Picked up 4 clients and sold a lot of books in the process of doing that speaking engagement. So speaking, it's not for everybody, obviously. There's a lot of people who don't like that, but speaking is a great way. And these all drive the sales of your book. So it's really about engaging with people and connecting with people and networking with people.
And I mean, so many great insights in there. And I feel like we really do have to think about marketing our books over the long term. Amazon ads, something that I hear very often. And I'm sure if you've been watching a bunch of these sessions, you've heard Amazon ads be repeated over and over again. So I feel like that's one of the top skills that you need to master if you want to continue to sell your books over the long term. And I mean, you did mention the case studies earlier about Mike McCallowicks, how he has that certification program, strategy calls. You mentioned the back end also, but for those offers to make money, they have to convert. So how do we work on getting higher conversions for things like a strategy call or a landing page that you promote in your book?
Well, I worked with a coach for many years on perfecting that. He wasn't cheap. He was really good. And you really have to create a very powerful lead magnet that people want, that will sort of pre-sell them on you and your ideas, right? So that's what a lead magnet does. And so in the front of all my clients' books is a free offer. Here's your free gift. And in mine right now, I have if you go to my website, bestsellingauthorprogram.com, I have a bestseller quick start kit. It has 3 pieces to it. It has the Profit Path Blueprint, which comes from here, Rapid Writing Secrets, 16 ways to get the book out of your head and onto paper. And then I have the Bestseller Blueprint, which are the foundation of a best-selling book. So those are all things I would think any author would want. I also have a webinar on my website that you can go watch. Some people like to watch webinars. So it's a good idea to have different lead magnets. Some people like to watch webinars. Some people like to read, and consume information really quickly. But something that's going to help your ideal reader. So they go and they look at that, they look at your lead magnet, your free gift, and then that sort of leads them into your world. I work with a copywriter. I have a paid copywriter. He's my coach. We work on things weekly, but having the autoresponders set up so they sign up for your free lead magnet, but then you are building a relationship and communicating with them, not just trying to sell them something. So I have email autoresponders set up when somebody signs up for a lead magnet. I develop the relationship. I also get referrals from a lot of publishing houses. Believe it or not, publishing houses are like, yeah, we're not going to market your book. We're going to publish it, and your marketing's on your own. That's what they're telling a lot of authors now. So I'm getting referrals from publishing houses and from people
That's funny.
Gone to publishing houses, and they're like, yeah, I'd rather just self-publish because it doesn't sound like they're like, unless you're a big name, they're probably not going to be doing a whole lot, on that.
Hmm. It's interesting to hear how it's changed also, because you're not the only one who I've heard say that. Like, the word around the street is that the publisher just publishes your book and you do like almost all the marketing, which is like self-publishing like anyway. So
I don't know if people have heard of Amanda Hocking. She's always, I don't know her, but she was like this very young girl in college who was struggling, and she was writing, I think they were like paranormal vampire books or something. And she tried to go the traditional publishing route and got many rejection letters like I had. And then a friend of hers was like, hey, you ever heard of, self-publishing and ebooks? And she actually had it, and she looked into it, and she's like, oh, cool. I'll do that. So she started publishing her own books, and she used a lot of book promoters and book reviewers online, and figured out, how to get more exposure for her book. She did media. But within a year, I think she was making enough to support herself. And within 2 years, she was making over $1 million from her books. And so this is sort of the backwards thing about book publishers. She still had this dream of being in bookstores. So after she made $2 million on her own, on her book, self-publishing, the publishing company came to her and they said, we want to do a publishing deal now. Oh yeah, now that she did all the work, now that she has all the followers and the subscribers and the email list, website now, but she said that she doesn't regret it because now she was able to negotiate a much higher advance because she had the success on her own. So she got a $2 million advance, where if she had taken that deal a long time ago, she might have been locked into a contract that wasn't in her best interest and probably wouldn't have had a $2 million advance on that. So you could get in, if you really have this dream of like being in bookstores and all that, I would do it the backwards way. Go out, get your own success, build your platform, and then, if you want to get, go to the publishing houses, or they might find you. I just had a client, actually. Have you heard of a company called Calypso?
No.
Well, they're a really interesting publishing house. They do not, you can't go to them and say, hey, publish my book. What they do is they do research. They pay these programmers hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure out what the components are of a best-selling book that stays on the New York Times and other bestsellers list. And so they did, they got these programmers to figure out the criteria. And they said, okay, this is what, so then they decide, they go out and they look at what the market wants, and then they go find an author. So they may come to you and say, Marc, we feel like you're an expert on this topic. Here is an $8,000 advance, write the book, we're publishing it, we're launching it, you get no royalties. But my client just got a deal with them, and I told her to do it because they are a huge company and they can get exposure for her name. And now she's publishing a book with me, so she'll get exposure sort of, indirectly on the book that she's working with on me from this big publishing company that's doing things a little bit different. They're a really big growing company. I think that's what it's called. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Calypso.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, they have what's called the bestseller algorithm. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to programmers to go take all these best-selling books over the last whatever years and say, what does it take to be what they call perennial bestseller? I don't know if you ever read the book by Ryan Holiday called Perennial Bestseller. What does it take? Not just to be a one-hit wonder, right? You want to be a perennial bestseller. You want your book to last and stay up there. And that's what Ryan Holiday's book is about. But it's really about putting out a good book and giving value to people.
And it's interesting you mentioned Amanda Hocking. I mean, I've heard of her. I know she was successful in self-publishing. I didn't know that she went back into traditional publishing with the $2 million advance, which definitely, like, going out there, building your own audience instead of waiting for someone to say yes to you can really put you in a better position to get that yes that you were seeking in the beginning if you eventually want to go that traditional route. So something very interesting to think about. And one of the questions that I want to ask is, I know that you've helped a lot of authors and you've met a lot of authors. So I wonder if you could share with us the difference between authors who are making a living from their work and authors who are not at that level quite yet.
Yeah, I think it boils down to people who abandon their books, authors who put it out there. And I hear this a lot, and you probably do too. I just want to write books. I don't like marketing. I don't like sales. I don't like technology. I do work with older people, and unfortunately, here's my line: if you don't get on board the technology train, you will get run over by the technology train. So what do you want to do? Either you're going to hire somebody that can help you, or you're going to learn this stuff yourself and put in the time. So it depends how valuable your time is. I mean, I have clients, some of them are retired and they have time to go learn this stuff. But the point is, you don't abandon your book. It's not a one and done event. It's a constant, effort marketing your book. And it could be as simple as being a guest on somebody's blog, doing a joint venture with somebody, doing a speaking engagement, media interviews, having your Amazon ads running, doing your keyword research every week, adding new keywords for that. And then every once in a while you can do a countdown deal on Amazon. That seems to kind of reinvigorate your book on Amazon. So, do a countdown deal where you drop the price for a limited time, and that will get you some new sales, because that's another a highly searched list on Amazon is the countdown deal list. A lot of authors don't know that. But I don't know if you know this, but BookBub is the biggest promoter of books out there, and 99% of my clients are like, who's BookBub? I don't know them. Well, every author needs to know who BookBub is. They do reject about 80 to 90% of the people that come to them because they have limited capacity to promote books. But one of my clients, an attorney, Lori Duff, whose book I helped launch, and she has actually 3 books on Amazon. We got a BookBub promotion, and she got 30,000 downloads in 3 days from her BookBub promotion.
Wow.
So here's the thing about BookBub. They're not gonna promote, books with bad covers, books with spelling errors, books with bad reviews, books that don't have well-written book descriptions. So you have to spend the time and the money on putting out a well-executed and book that people want. And, that's kind of the process I take people through is getting a really great book out there. And then, down the road, we try to get a BookBub promotion. They have BookBub ads you can run. They're not as picky. You can go do an ad, but I haven't had a lot of success with the ads because you have to have a very niche market for that.
Michelle, thank you for sharing with us some of the ways that we can become authors who are making a living from our work and some of the differences. You shared a lot of really great insights throughout our time together. I know that you have a bestseller quick start guide. I wonder if you could share a little bit what that is and where we can find you.
Yeah, you can go to bestsellingauthorprogram.com, and then there's a link at the top that says bestseller quick start kit. And I put that together because I want to stick with, people have a short attention span. They have a short amount of time. So, because at first I was just going to give away the book on my website. And I said, well, who's going to have time to read, 150 pages? A lot of people, like you did audiobooks, right? A lot, especially the young people, they like to listen to audiobooks. So I decided to take and write the bestseller checklist, the rapid writing secrets, and the profit path blueprint, which comes from this book, but it's like they're like 4 pages each. So you can literally read each one in about 10 minutes. In a half hour, you've now consumed a lot of valuable information, stuff that has taken me 5 years or more to learn. And that's why I love books, because it's like you're taking somebody's knowledge, their wisdom, stuff that may have taken their whole life to learn, and you're getting that gift, in their book or in their lead magnet. So you can just go to my website and get the bestseller quick start kit. I've been working on that for quite a while. 16 rapid writing secrets. A lot of authors struggle with getting their book out of their head and onto paper, so I have some shortcuts there for them. And then the bestseller checklist is really good too, because it's the thing that I see missing on a lot of books. So it's the foundational pieces that really is going to make your book not only be a bestseller when we do a launch, but to stay a bestseller.
Michelle, thank you for sharing with us the bestseller Quick Start Kit and all the great insights throughout our time together. It was such a pleasure to have you on the Wealthy Author Summit. Thanks for coming by and speaking with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it.